Okay, so this is my monitor. It's a Samsung ThinkMaster P2070, and this thing is at least 7 years old, I believe. I remember I bought it when I was in high school, and I was working at Sears selling TVs. I bought it at Best Buy, but I remember I was working at Sears at the time, and we were always trying to sell Samsung products, so I bought a Samsung. It's not 1080p. I don't know what the resolution is. It's above 720 pixels for the horizontal, but it's not 1080. I remember that. But it's a nice monitor. I really like it. The other day, I walked away from my computer, and when I came back, I thought it was in sleep mode because the monitor was blank, but the power button was solid. Usually it's like fades in and out when it's in sleep mode. The thing was dead. I wasn't getting any picture out of it. I wiggled the cables, and when I hit menu, you see there's supposed to be a little thing up here that says something, and then menu, there's supposed to be something here that says something. Nothing. And I tried to put a flashlight up to it to see if the backlight was gone, and I can't see any pixels on it or anything. So I'm gonna pull the thing out and then try to hook it up to my laptop first. If that doesn't work, I guess I'm gonna have to open the thing up. Okay, the power supply is not built into the unit. It has a separate brick module. It's a 12 volt 3 amp output, and with no load on it, it's outputting just fine. I've seen these little brick power supplies seem fine when there's no load on them, but when you put a load on them, they start pulsing. The regulator gets overwhelmed. But the light is solid on the screen. So I'm just going to try to hook the thing up to my laptop, use a different source, use a different cable, see if I can get the thing running before I start tearing into anything. Okay, I have it hooked up to my laptop and still nothing, which is, I thought it was more the monitor's fault than my computer's fault because I'm not getting any menu. And I don't see a backlight. So I guess we'll have to open it up. I don't have a good way to see if the regulator's bad without like trying to mess with it. If I open it up and plug it in, I can check the voltage to see if it's outputting a solid 12 volts while the regulator outputting a solid 12 volts on the regulator while it's under load. But I don't think I would get a solid light unless it's doing that and there's a lot of capacitance that's keeping the low voltage stuff going. So gotta open it up. Okay, well the back's off. There was no screws on the back, and I thought, oh great. So I took a butter knife and I pried it apart, and it pried apart relatively easy, and I don't think I broke anything, which is good. On the back of the unit, let's see if it'll focus. It's not going to focus. But it says February 2009. So it's only 6 years old. And I probably got this in spring of 2009. So I'm going to plug it in, and you know what the first rule is: thou shalt check voltages. No electrolytic caps. Actually, it's pretty simple. So I'm hoping it's more of the power supply going bad. Okay, I have my leads on the on and off signal and ground. And take a look at this. Watch the voltage when I push the on and off button. Oh, I pushed it too many times there. $364 millivolts. So I'm going to have to check to see if that on and off signal is supposed to be 364 millivolts. I'm thinking it needs to be a lot higher than that. Luckily on the side of the board here, it's probably blurry, but it has the pin out for this. And basically it has 3 pins of 12 volts, which we're getting 12 volts in all 3 pins. And then we have a couple grounds. We have an ADIM, which I don't know what that is. I didn't even check it. But when I saw the on and off on number 9, I knew that that was the first one to check. I'm thinking that that on and off for number 9 needs to be higher. So let me go on the internet. Oh yeah, and I checked the voltage on the main cap here. 12 volts solid, so the power supply is not the problem. I'm going to check the internet to see if I can get any information on that, to see if I can get a voltage reading, but I'm thinking that that's supposed to be higher. And this one has the drivers for the this is for the backlight, the high voltage for the backlight, this card. And to tell you the truth, I think that's all this card does. It also has a pulse to change the brightness. I think that PDM is the pulse to change the brightness. Okay, so first thing I decided to do, on the side here, it has the pin out for this connector. You're getting 12 volts ground at 80 IM, which I don't know what it is. We're getting an on and off, and a PDM, which is probably your pulse width for the backlight. Backlight's not coming on. So we had our 12 volts, and I checked the 12 volts on the main cap, and it's a solid 12 volts. So the power, I don't think the power supply is an issue. So we had our 12 volts coming to this board. On our on and off signal, we were going from 100 millivolts to 300 millivolts. I have the video here. And I think that that's not right. I assume that the on-off signal has to be higher, so maybe a regulator went out on this board and it's not sending the full voltage to tell the backlight to come on. I don't know. I'm going to go on the internet and try to Google search a little more. But yeah. Okay, I hit the gold mine here. I found the service manual online, so I downloaded it. They had quick troubleshooting techniques, but they didn't have, it didn't describe my case where you have power on the LEDs. So I went down to the schematics here. Here's the connector. Pin number 9, it clearly shows that it's supposed to be 5 volts. And then you travel it back, IC604, and there's a schematic, there's a picture in this manual to show you which ICs are it. So I got to check IC604 for 5 volts. There's also a 10 UF cap that could be causing a problem, and they have a tie down resistor, 10 kilo ohms. So let me go and trace that out to see if I can find anything wrong. Okay, this is that chip right there, is the voltage comparator, and we're not, I unplugged it, so we're not getting a load. And I don't think this chip is bad. This chip is getting 3.5 volts, and it's getting a half a voltage on the input, and then it's something weird coming out of the output. But I found that it's tied to this transistor here, which, even though this is labeled as an output, is connected to the 5 volts main. And it is connected to the 5 volts main right now. Through that drop down resistor, we're getting 5 volts on one side and then 130 some millivolts on the other side. This transistor right here is your blank enable, and it's pulling it to ground. So, and we're getting a half a volt on the base of the transistor. So I got to do my calculation to see if this is supposed to be conducting or supposed to be open. I'm thinking it's supposed to be open to send 5 volts out. I went and I scanned through the troubleshooting techniques, and one of the things they said is to check this connector and the first 3 pins for 5 volts, and we're not getting any 5 volts. But I know we're getting our 5 volt. We're getting our 5 volts out of the regulator. It says check the 5 volt main. We are getting 5 volt main. Then after it says check the 5 volt main, it says check the blank enable, which is this thing right here. So I'm thinking that the blank enable is messed up. Now the main processor, that specialty chip that's underneath here, is what controls the blank enable. And they also recommend taking this shield off and checking the oscillation to making sure that the chip is oscillating. So I want to see if it's try to do calculations because we're getting a half a volt on the base to see what this transistor is supposed to be doing when it gets half a volt on the base. And hopefully it'll be a simple fix as just removing this transistor, and then I'll never need a blank enable, so I'll just leave it floating. It's already tied up to 5 volts. But I had to do some more research before I can get into any of that. Okay, I found out that the transistor, when the base is tied to ground, it turns off the screen blanking. So I put a jumper wire to ground and had the screen blanking, and the backlight turned on, but there was no image on the screen. So unfortunately, I think it's the problem with the processor because the processor controls that. So I'm going to take off this shield and see if there's anything specifically wrong around the processor that would cause the processor not to work right. Okay, I checked the voltages to the microcontroller. Didn't find any bad voltages, so now it says check the crystal oscillator. This is one side of the crystal oscillator. I don't have the best probes, so that weird sine wave could be because of my setup. The other side. The problem I'm having is the two sides aren't equal, and I don't know enough about oscillator circuits to know if that would cause a problem. Oh. The two sides are totally off, different from one each other. I did one of my electronics projects. I tested out the crystal oscillator on that, and both sides were exactly the same. But I don't know, you see, I don't know enough if that's a problem or not. The fact that it's oscillating, I'm thinking the crystal might be good. Maybe some of the supporting circuitry like a resistor or a capacitor is bad. So I'll look at the resistor and capacitors in the oscillator circuit. But I'm kind of stumped. This is getting way more involved than what I thought it would. I was hoping I would open it up and it would be a capacitor, but we'll keep on giving it a try, I guess. Okay, I ran out of time for today, but I definitely think the problem is somewhere in the processor. I don't know if it's the clock signal. The clock signal seems a little sketchy. I wouldn't roll it out yet, but I don't know if that's a problem or not. I took my oscilloscope and probed around on the EEPROM, like on the I2C circuit between the EEPROM and the microcontroller. The clock is totally steady, so the clock isn't running at all. You would think that the clock would be running constantly on an I2C circuit. So something's wrong with this processor. I got to see if there's some kind of watchdog or reset circuit that it's missing, but I'm out of time today. Okay, it's 2 days later. I finally get a chance to look into this again, and I went on YouTube, and people are saying to they have good luck just replacing these caps. So I have my ESR meter. I have my ESR meter. We'll check the caps. Probably should have checked this to begin with. .11. You see that one? This one's reading bad, and it was reading bad before. .3. These are a little bigger caps. .1. .2. So they all read good except for this one right here. This one right here is the main filter cap for the 3.3. And like I said, I checked all my power supplies. .6. So this one's doubled. and people online are having good luck replacing them. So I'm going to replace the main filter cap for the 3.3 voltage. And like I said, when I use my meter to check all the voltages seem solid on my meter. I think I might pull out the oscilloscope and before I replace that cap to see if we can see any dirtiness in the voltage. You see, that's why I don't think it's the cap, because I have a clean 3.3 volt power supply. Even though the capacitor is reading bad with the ESR meter, the voltage is clean, and I could see that on the meter. You know, on the meter it would waver a little, even though it's a meter, not an oscilloscope. But this is the easiest thing to replace, and it does read bad on the ESR meter, so I'll go ahead and replace it. Okay, I pulled the cap out. On the ESR meter, it still read 0.9 ohms, which is bad. And then I got my capacitance meter out, and it read 6 nanofarads. So yeah, this cap is definitely toast. So I have it's a 100 microfarad, and it's 16J, which I believe it means it's a 6-volt capacitor. It's on a 3-volt bus, so I have a little electrolytic 100 microfarad 10-volt that I'm going to put in there. So going to try to solder it in like that. Well, guess what? It didn't work. So I rechecked all the ESR values. These two are the same caps. This is 0.28, this is 0.1. So technically this one's doubled. So I'm going to change this one. I put my oscilloscope on the 5 volts of this one and saw little wavy, but I'm talking about very little waves. But I want to change this one out. Okay, well, I guess I'm not a good repairman after all. Still didn't get it. There was a little board damage. That capacitor that I replaced, it leaked just a little bit, but I was able to replace the capacitor without damaging anything. Still got 5 volts, still had the little wave. I went on Newegg and I checked out Best Buy. Best Buy had a 23-inch Samsung monitor on sale, 1080p, free shipping in 2 days. So I just got that one. I'll keep this one behind because I can't edit this video until I get this monitor fixed. So once I put this video up, I'll keep this laying around for a little bit to see if anyone has any ideas. So thanks for watching.